let's, because I remember talking about the street called Straight.
Yeah.
Right, and I remember talking about Tarsus. So, I think we started at 13, but Ananias,
It won't hurt if we
Why
reread
didn't
it.
What's that?
It won't hurt if we reread it.
well, if you want to go back to the beginning of,
No, I
Okay,
just said,
okay,
I
yeah.
meant 13 if it's.
Right.
Ananias.
I don't know, he doesn't seem, well, okay, why do you hate him?
Because it reminds me of those people back in the 90s when you had the cooperatives that were, some of them were very good and some of them were very religious and some of them were scams. And that particular one could just as easily have been a scam.
Well, I'm not sure, let's go through it and figure out, why, whatever it is there is for that, okay?
Okay?
Let me start with it then. And I will read to the end of,
16, read to the end of 16.
oh, okay, I was gonna read the end of 19, but it's okay.
No, then you break it up.
Okay. But Ananias answered, Lord, I have heard from many about this man, how much evil he has done to your saints at Jerusalem. And here he has authority from the chief priest to bind all who call on your name. But the Lord said to him, Go, for he is a chosen instrument of mine to carry my name before the Gentiles and kings and the children of Israel. For I will show him how much he must suffer for the sake of my name. Okay,
That's not the James.
not what you remember, huh?
That's not what I was thinking of.
Okay. So one of the first things that strikes me is Ananias says, I have heard from many about this man, which means he didn't know him personally and presumably had never been to Jerusalem to encounter him, yes.
So is this man, is that Saul?
So that's Saul, yes.
I just wanted to
Yes,
clarify,
yes,
thank you, sorry.
Yeah. And see, so the other thing that's interesting about Ananias is that he doesn't seem to be a particularly important guy.
So this is 9:13.
Yes,
We just read.
that's right, 9:13. He just shows up, and because Jesus says, asks him to, and he says, yeah, go and check this guy out. But Ananias isn't even given a profession. Some of these others are weavers or tanners or whatever, or they're something descriptive about it, as we will see a little bit later when they talk about Simeon. But he just is here and he shows up and he goes away. But the point is that Luke is showing here that he didn't have to be wealthy or elite or important or even identifiable to be a good Christian and to be welcomed in the flock. So he also, but Lord said to him, go, all right? You don't have a choice here. For he is a chosen instrument of mine. And that word chosen is one that Paul himself uses of himself at the beginning of Romans. Romans chapter 1, verse 1. And chapter 1, verse 5. Paul talks about himself there. See, I can find the line. It should be easier because it's the next one. Paul, a servant of Christ Jesus, called to be an apostle, set apart for the gospel of God. That's what it says in line 1. And then in 5, through whom we have, verse 5, through whom we have received grace and apostleship to bring about the obedience of faith for the sake of his name among all the nations. And Jesus says, they say the Lord, but presumably Jesus, a chosen instrument of mine to carry my name before the Gentiles and kings and the children of Israel. Okay? So we know who the Gentiles are, that's easy. And we know who the children of Israel are. Who are the kings?
I guess the rulers of the Gentiles and the Israelites that are ruled by kings.
Right, and of course the children of Israel don't have
At this
kings.
time.
Right.
Usually when they talk about kings in the Old Testament, and in the kings, if they're not specifically referring to one of the kings of Israel in the Old Testament, but in the New Testament, they're talking about the Gentile kings, you're right. And when they're talking about the Gentile kings, because the two largest groups that would have been in the Roman world, the best known would have been the Greeks and the Romans. And they didn't have kings, of course, they had emperors.
Would this be the time of Babylonians?
No, this is much, much later.
Much later? When was Babylonians? I forgot.
Babylonians around the 9th century BC.
Oh, okay.
So,
Assyrians, when did the Assyrians come in?
the Assyrians
That's what
are
I'm saying.
after the Babylonians, and they're around
I thought they were around 70.
not this,
No,
no.
they're after. it
Now,
was-
Syria is a province of the Roman Empire at this point.
Okay.
As you remember from the Gospel according to Luke, where when he says Quirinius was governor in Syria.
So is this about 70, 80?
This is not quite, because the Nero is still alive, and I think that's who they're referring to. They're referring to Nero when they talk about the kings.
Even though the
Sorry?
even though the Romans didn't use that term.
Right, because they hated kings. Anybody who would know who the last Roman king was? Oh, you who taught ancient history?
Lucretius.
Well, it would have been,
The,
wait, let me think,
the rape of Lucretia.
Right around that time, yes, you remember who the king was?
Oh. No,
Tarquin the Proud.
it was.
Tarquin, I love that name.
Yes, right, Tarquinius in Latin.
Tarquin's a Scottish, I guess.
But yes, it was his defeat that set up the Roman Republic.
When was that?
What was the Roman Republic in when was it?
509?
500 sometime, I think, yes.
Okay.
But they were very, that's why, of course, if you remember the stories about Caesar on the Ides of March, Brutus is complaining, he says, they offered him a crown 3 times.
And he
Each,
refused.
he refused, but the last time he was really reluctant. He said, I think if we offer him again, he's going to take it, we better make sure that doesn't happen. So so anyway, yeah, the Romans were very proud of the fact that they didn't have kings. But the other kings, of course, would be the Persian kings. At this point, Persia is a ways off, and they're
Oh, yeah, Cyrus.
yeah, but he was a while ago. Cyrus, of course, is in the
He
the
really
500s.
brought them back, the Israelites were able to come back
from Babylonia. After he conquered Babylonia, he let them
hot
in.
here.
And in fact, he then he built the temple. Ezra and Nehemiah, the books of the prophets Ezra and Nehemiah, talk about that.
So he was a good king.
Yes, well, he's known as Cyrus the Great, and he's referred to in the Old Testament as God's anointed.
Now that I didn't.
What is it, 80? 80?
I said it is 75.
Thank you. I'm dying.
Anyhow, so that is who they're probably referring to. The kings being the emperor, and also the Persian kings. Because those are the ones that people would have immediately thought of. Okay, so 17 then through 19, please, Connie.
So Ananias departed and entered the house. And laying his hands on him, he said, Brother Saul, the Lord Jesus, who appeared to you on the road by which you came, has sent me so that you may regain your sight and be filled with the Holy Spirit. And immediately something like scales fell from his eyes, and he regained his sight. Then he rose and was baptized, and taking food, he was strengthened.
Okay.
Oh, that's interesting, I have an extra line, I think.
Which one, what do you have?
Would you read your 19 again? I think I have another line.
Well, 18 goes into 19, and it says, Then he arose and was baptized, 19, and taking food, he was strengthened. So 19 is in the middle of a sentence, actually.
Okay, mine ends up with, then was Saul certain days with the disciples which were at Damascus.
And that's,
Did that
yeah,
fit in
19, yeah, 19B is, he stayed for some days with the disciples in Damascus.
Okay.
So,
Oh,
and,
there you go, I see it, it's
See
in the
it?
notes.
oh, it's in the notes?
Mm-hmm.
And which, I'm sorry, and which do you have?
I've got
Authorized.
I've got the, English Standard Study Bible.
Okay.
And I have Authorized King James Version.
Okay, well, it says here, I've got a note here, it says for some days, but it doesn't say why, it is I'm sorry, it doesn't say why it wouldn't be in yours.
Well, here it says that this section reports Saul's witness to Christ in Damascus and Jerusalem, and that in Galatians, Paul provides an account of this same period.
Okay,
And then I have a 919B.
right, so that's, and because I have my 19B, and that's for some days he was with the disciples of Damascus.
Yes.
Right, okay, so we all got that, okay. Of course, we're starting to see some themes coming in here. We've got, he's laying his hands on him, Ananias, an ordinary person, not a priest, not a bishop, not an apostle, but just a regular Christian, and that was enough. So this is it's interesting and complicated, and I'm still trying to understand the laying on of hands and who got to do it and what it meant, and
Would one of the 12 disciples do that to him? I mean, but
have
doesn't
we
it-
have to Ananias? Maybe,
No,
but they
I
don't
meant
say
to
it.
Saul, but it doesn't mention it here.
It
so I
doesn't,
can-
well, it says, so Ananias departed and entered the house, and laying his hands on him, he said, Brother Saul. And so it's got to refer to Ananias. So so it was, and then, and of course, the other theme that we have here is that he would become, like everybody else, filled with the Holy Spirit. And when you get filled with the Holy Spirit, that's because you have a mission, as they say in the Blues Brothers, we're on a mission from God. And that's the Holy Spirit is sending you out. If you recall, Mark, what is it? I don't remember. Mark 2. And the Spirit drove him into the wilderness, where he spent 40 days with the wild beasts. So the Spirit usually is what the impetus for a lot of things. I think that, again, what Luke is pointing out here is Paul is being prepared, Saul at this point, is being prepared for to take on a mission. And immediately something like scales fell from his eyes. Well, the Greek says, like fish scales. So, and if you look through, through fish, it's like translucent fish skin. It's translucent. And I think that's what they were talking about. What that meant medically, I have no idea, or but and Luke doesn't seem to be interested in providing any detail. So, is there anything in your study Bible over there that mentions anything about the scales? Because mine doesn't. But there's a reference to Tobit, to scale away the white films from Tobit's eyes. And the white films scaled away from the corners of his eyes.
No, it just says that it is a symbol that Saul's spiritual blindness had been overcome.
Okay.
And he could now
Spiritual.
see and understand the truth.
Okay. But I think there was probably something physical as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then he rose and was baptized. Again, no apostle is there. They're just doing it. And taking food, he was strengthened. So, if you, Doug, if you could do 19b until 20 through 22.
Certainly. Saul spent several days with the disciples in Damascus. At once he began to preach in the synagogues that Jesus is the Son of God. All those who heard him were astonished and asked, "Isn't he the man who is raising havoc in Jerusalem among those who call on his name? Hasn't he come here to take them as prisoners to the chief priests?" Yet Saul grew more and more powerful and baffled the Jews living in Damascus by proving that Jesus is the Christ.
Okay, so so he's still in Damascus, but again, his reputation has preceded him. He is isn't the same guy who did all these terrible things that we have heard about. We may not personally have experienced, although we did, if you remember correctly, when we started looking at this about the discussions of the early preaching, that when the authorities decided to persecute the Christians, they tended to flee, and a number of them may have ended up in Damascus. But again, he's talking about, as they say, converts are the worst, right? It goes from one extreme to the other. And he's going into the synagogue, and he isn't even taking it isn't even a discussion. He says, Jesus is the Son of God. Okay? Which means, of course, he's the Messiah. And it's not and there was some pushback, obviously, from the people who listened to him, who would have been in the synagogue, because they say, "Is not this the man who made havoc in Jerusalem of those who called upon this name?" So they're not Christians. They're probably still Jews. That he's talking about in the synagogues, which would make sense. And they're saying, why isn't he doing what he was supposed to do? Which is to take these guys and to capture them and to bring them back to Jerusalem, where they can be tried
And punished.
And so it says essentially though, but Saul increased in power, and you know, it's a, you try to, essentially, that's probably because of the converts, because of the people who then began to follow him. Now, interestingly, Galatians, Paul talks about this himself in Galatians, and he says that he went right after he got baptized. He went to the Nabatean kingdom in Arabia, which says here lay on the eastern frontier of Syria and stretched south to the Red Sea. According to F.F. Bruce, it is likely that what he did was he went to Arabia first, and then after leaving Damascus, or went back to Damascus and then went on to Jerusalem. Already he's recognizing that his mission here is to go to everybody else, and to start spreading the word aside from the more obvious places. So, short one, Betsy, 23,
I'm lost.
verse 23 through 25. Okay, all right. Beth, would you do that, please?
23 to 25.
When many days had
Oh,
passed,
okay, Marty, okay, that's fine.
when many days had passed, the Jews plotted to kill him, but their plot became known to Saul. They were watching the gates day and night in order to kill him, but his disciples took him by night and led him down through an opening into in the wall, following him in a basket.
Good, thank you.
Mhm.
So,
May I say,
yes, please, say.
I have read this and on for a ways. This so much reminds me of a Russian novel, in that everybody seems to have three names. His name is Saul, yeah, but it's Paul. Well, you know, and there's something, well, yeah, but her name was Dorcas. Okay, just saying.
Well, so if argument doesn't work, then of course you try violence, right? And my footnote here says the word Jews here, the Greek word refers to the Jewish religious leaders and people they influenced who opposed the Christian faith. And so but small town, you know, smallish, everybody's related to everybody, the word gets out.
Yes.
And so but the obvious place is you check the obvious exits and make sure that those are closed before you go on and before you try to stop up anything else, right? And he then the disciples and actually by this time it says, it's interesting, at least when I was looking at the Greek, it said, and it says here, his disciples. Already Paul has disciples.
Mhm.
Yeah, it must have been very
Charismatic.
thanks, that's exactly what I was looking for, Betsy. Man, to be able to do that. And then they found an opening in the wall and lowered him in a basket. Paul himself talks about this in the second letter of the Corinthians. He says, in Damascus, the ethnarch, that being one of the appointees of the Roman Emperor, of King Aretas, was guarding the city of the Damascenes in order to seize me, but I was let out in a basket through a window in the wall and escaped his hands. Aretas IV, 9 BC to 40 AD, you had a long reign. In a period where long reigns were not all that common.
I looked up the timeline,
Yeah,
and it said chapter 9 is, let me go to the timeline, is, around 34.
that would be early, but that would be
Yeah,
just
this
after
is just
Jesus
one. I
died.
mean, I just pulled up.
Yeah, no, but I mean,
That's
that's,
very early.
that would be, but, you know, cause there's a lot of things going on. I mean, you figure that Jesus dies in 33,
Yeah, that doesn't make sense to me.
Or 32.
or 32, right?
So it's 2 years later, so who knows?
Yeah, now 2 years, it could be 2 years.
And this one has him dying at 62. And Paul dying at 62.
Paul died in 62?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I don't know.
Does anybody remember when the Great Fire of Rome took place? Cause I don't.
Under Nero?
Under Nero, yeah. We need to get a little better on our Roman history.
I'll bring a timeline,
Yes, okay.
and then you can know what other
Yes.
things were happening at the same
Okay.
time.
That's a good idea. We should do that.
I'll do that.
All right. Anyway, he was the ruler of the Nabatean kingdom, in which Paul spent some time after his conversion, Galatians 1, verse 17. It is commonly supposed that Paul's sojourn in Arabia had the nature of a religious retreat, that he sought the solitude of the desert, perhaps even going to Mount Horeb, as Moses and Elijah had done, in order to commune with God and think out all the implications of his new life. But the context in which he tells of his going to Arabia immediately after receiving his commission to proclaim Christ among the Gentiles suggests that he went there to preach the gospel. The hostile interest which the Nabatean authorities took in him implies he had done something to annoy him, something more than withdrawals of the desert for solitary contemplation. The ethnarch looked after the interest of the many Nabatean subjects who lived in Damascus, and in general acted as King Aretas' representative of the city. So, it was...
This one thing says Rome burned July 18th and 19th, so we're near the anniversary, 64.
64, okay.
But it has Paul dying in 62. These are two different sources, so, but around the same time.
Right, but the connection, after the fire of Rome, Nero blamed the Christians.
Right.
So, and that was when some people believed that Paul was killed.
Well, that's why I said it's two, but they're close in time, so.
Yeah, I mean, that's right. It was a year here and there.
Yeah.
So,
Well, with the calendars and things,
yeah, well, the calendars were,
give the Julian first.
that would have been the Julian, yeah.
Right.
And by that time, of course, it had not gotten, the days weren't all that far off.
Well, then you have the Hebrew calendar. So Saul is a Jew. He may have been using.
But they were
Hebrew.
both based on moon
Okay.
versus solar time.
But wasn't the Julian calendar based on, was based on solar?
No,
Because-
I'm pretty sure it was lunar.
Okay.
And it was only the Dead Sea Scrolls where a real calendar came out showing that the solar counting method was much more accurate all throughout biblical history.
What was that?
The Dead Sea Scrolls. And there was a calendar found.
So they had the solar calendar.
They kept the solar calendar. The solar calendar was kept for a long, long time. It was only the Jews that changed it to the lunar method.
I just remember that Caesar consulted with Babylonian astronomers. Would they have used a lunar calendar or a solar one?
Don't know.
So I don't either. I have a whole book
That's an
on.
intriguing question.
I have a whole book on early Greek astronomy. Unfortunately, it only goes as far as Aristotle. So, They're gonna help us here.
I looked it up, it's
Okay.
AI is saying,
Yes,
solar calendar began by Julius Caesar in 45 BC.
okay, it was a solar calendar, all right, at least according to AI. Which, which can make mistakes, as it always says at the bottom. But it still was not, it still had, it had accounted for the quarter day. So by the time it got to 1700, it was a real mess. So if you can, but I digress, as we
Yes.
say.
Should we continue?
Yes, let's continue, sorry. So,
We're on Saul and Jerusalem.
yes, we are. He sent it so, 26
Through 30, it's a paragraph.
26 to 30, why don't you do that?
Who?
You, didn't
Okay.
you? Sorry, you.
And when he had come to Jerusalem, he attempted to join the disciples, and they were all afraid of him, for they did not believe that he was a disciple. But Barnabas took him and brought him to the apostles and declared to them how on the road he had seen the Lord, who spoke to him, and how at Damascus he had preached boldly in the name of Jesus. So he went in and out among them at Jerusalem, preaching boldly in the name of the Lord. And he spoke and disputed against the Hellenists. But they were seeking to kill him. And when the brothers learned this, they brought him down to Caesarea and sent him off to Tarsus.
Okay, thank you. So, not surprisingly, he comes to Jerusalem and they don't want any part of him because they don't believe him. But Barnabas apparently had a reputation for being a conciliator. And he was when people said, when he spoke, people listened, as they say, simply because he was known as someone who people could trust, and it is but that was probably what he needed. I mean, if he hadn't had a sponsor, so to speak, he wouldn't have had I'm not sure what he would have done.
We wouldn't have heard about him,
He
probably.
wouldn't have survived.
Right.
Well, he may have disappeared somewhere else. I mean, that
Right, but I
probably-
meant
yeah.
in this situation, it helped him.
Right, and he might not have
Escape.
been, and again, he might not have run into Luke, because I'm figuring that this is about the time that he meets Luke. And Luke then says, hey, this is a guy I want to write about, among other people, but I'll make a special point of writing about him. So but he said the Hellenists, were not Greeks.
Oh, so we use that
The
term.
Hellenists were not
Yeah.
Greek.
That's correct. They were Greek-speaking Jews.
Oh, okay.
In other words, there were two groups. Remember when Alexander the Great comes and conquers that area, and then leaves his various generals there. They were all Greek speakers. And many Jews ended up speaking mostly speaking Greek in preference to Aramaic. So there were different words, and I'm not going to reach for it now, but in Greek, different words for Hellenists who were Greek speakers of another ethnic origin, and those who were Greeks, who probably we would probably call them Hellenes. Yes, Betsy.
Well, I was thinking that Alexander developed a polyglot language that was used by a number of different peoples to communicate?
There were trading languages at that time, and they're very common to have trading languages in, where you had two different countries and people didn't speak the other language. The other language. You ended up with a little bit.
Pidgin English.
Right, right, very much so. In fact, know a guy who is from Africa, and he was telling me that he spoke many languages, French, English, his native tribal language. He said, I also speak a kind of pidgin, so I can communicate with people from other countries on business matters. So that's what, remember we were talking about the Linear B, and without getting into going too far afield, that was that many people believe, including my teacher,
That's what Linear
that
B was.
It was a pidgin, yes. It had some Greek words, it had some Minoan words.
It says here that Aramaic was the Persian trading language.
Oh,
That would be interesting, I didn't know.
Yeah. I don't know, I mean,
the Persian, it was the Persian?
the Persians mandated Aramaic
That would
for
make sense
official
for where it
records,
was
which
located.
merchants universally adopted.
Okay. At what time?
Oh, and simultaneous coin, K-O-I.
Kini
Kini.
or Koine, depending.
Koine Greek was utilized in the Mediterranean, rapidly spreading inland as a language of administration. So both of those would
So
have been
probably
trading.
start with Cyrus and,
Trading languages, yeah, okay. So,
Well, it makes sense here that they would be the Jews because this is talking about a Jewish community dealing with their problem.
a problem, right, because it's, and they were seeking to kill him, right? And when the brothers learned this, they brought him down to Caesarea and sent him off to Tarsus, that being where he was from anyway, in Asia Minor. They said, well, why don't you go home and start there? So, if we could go to
31.
31,
Dale.
Dale, we got to Dale, yes.
Then had the churches rest throughout all Judea and Galilee and Samaria, and were edified and walking in the fear of the Lord and in the comfort of the Holy Ghost were multiplied.
Okay.
And 32, and it came to pass as Peter passed throughout all quarters, he came down also to the saints which dwelt in Lydia. And there he found a certain man named Ananias, I believe, which had kept Aeneas, which had kept his bed 8 years, and was sick of the palsy. And Peter said unto him, Aeneas, Jesus Christ maketh thee whole. Arise and make thy bed. And he arose immediately. And all that dwelt at Lydda and Saron saw him and turned to the Lord. Now there was at Joppa a certain disciple named Tabitha, which by interpretation is called Dorcas. This woman was full of good works and alms deeds, which she did. And it came to pass in those days that she was sick and died, whom when they had washed, they laid her in an upper chamber. And forasmuch as Lydia was nigh to Joppa, and the disciples had heard that Peter was there, they sent unto him 2 men, desiring him that he would come without delay, and come to them. Then Peter arose and went with them. When he was come, they brought him into the upper chamber, and all the widows stood by him weeping, and showing the coats and garments which Dorcas made while she was with them. But Peter put them all forth, and kneeled down and prayed. And turning him to the body, said, Tabitha, arise. And she opened her eyes, and when she saw Peter, she sat up.
Okay.
What version here, what Bible are you
Yeah, I was gonna say.
reading? To me.
This is authorized King James Version.
Oh, so that's what Betsy has. I know it's
okay.
really different. But in that chapter.
You
we
can
got
kind
a
of fit it
couple-
in with the other.
Did you get a couple more sentences?
There
It
are,
goes to 43, the paragraph.
yes.
You wanna read it?
Okay, 41 through 43.
Yeah.
And he gave her his hand and lifted her up, and when he had called the saints and widows, prepared her alive. Presented her alive. And it was known throughout all Joppa, and many believed in the Lord. And it came to pass that he tarried many days in Joppa with one Simon a tanner.
Okay. First of all, of course, we've changed characters. We've gone from Paul or Saul to Peter. One of the interesting comments that I read in the commentary was, to Greek speakers, there may have been a pun here that they would have found amusing. They would said, because it says it says that healed Jesus Christ heals you, right? And Jesus would have sounded to Greek as being related to the word iatai, meaning to heal.
Ah,
So that would have been to them, they would have said, oh, there's an interesting connection here. Jesus and healing. There are other words for healing, but Luke, of course, uses this one, and he may have been making a point. By the way, anybody know what the word Tabitha actually means, or Dorcas, same thing?
Fear of the Lord. Right? Hold on. I'm here somewhere.
Okay.
I saw it in my notes. Let's see. Six.
I think of it as
It's
a Beatrix
Oh, there
Potter
it is.
word.
They both mean gazelle.
Gazelle, that's right, yes.
Gazelle.
Yes, Dorcas,
Tabitha and Dorcas.
Dorcas, yes, depending what Aramaic and,
Like the animal?
yes,
Why?
just happened to be her name.
Well, I just wondered if it had any
You know.
significance.
No?
Great, graceful and prey.
Mhm.
I mean, it's a,
Maybe it's the prey aspect.
it was it says, her name Tabitha is Aramaic meaning gazelle. Dorcas is the Greek equivalent. That's it.
Oh, interesting. So why wouldn't they have split the chapter at the end of Saul and put 10 up at the healing of Aeneas?
I think you have to ask the
Printer?
no, the King James's people. It's what the divisions that we have in our Bible are mostly ones that they did.
Oh, okay. It just would make more, I meant, because you do change characters, but you do.
Right, yes.
Yeah.
I would think that they would have, put that, if they would have moved that down into 10.
Yeah.
I mean, they had 30-some verses, so they could have done it. Yeah, anyway, it was a, the other thing that struck me as interesting is, you know, and we've talked about this before, but they use the word the saints and the widows, right?
Mhm.
Presumably widows not being able to be saints, I don't know. The word saint is really just means holy one.
Was it limited to males?
No, not necessarily. It was in Latin, we get the word saint from sanctus. And if it were, you know, holy man, and if we had, if it were a woman, it would have been sancta, right? Holy woman. And then, of course, what would sanctum be? The neuter version.
Holy Ghost.
Holy place.
Oh,
Sanctum.
Oh, sanctum, yes.
Sanctum, yes.
Safe, safety place.
Yes. So
And
it isn't.
inner
We're not
inner
having.
sanctum.
I guess the point is though that and this is. I guess maybe it's just my literalism, but not. You know, we don't yet have real saints, and people aren't made saints yet because the church hasn't gotten to the point of saying you were so holy that we will give you a special name of saint. And
Well, I
many of
would
these.
think it would have something to do with the fact that widows are women, and
Saints are men?
I wonder at that
I don't
time, I mean, all the people we're reading about are male, so I'm wondering if that might have been,
Well, all widows are women, but
That's what I
all
meant.
saints are not necessarily. So there's a saint category, and then you could be a widow as a saint maybe. It's not saying you can't, but then widows are a group unto themselves.
Do I hear
Well-
Aristotelian logic here?
well, I would agree, but given the time period, you know, as time went on, we have, of course, you know, different women saints that were made.
Mhm.
But I'm wondering if that was a term that, because it's lowercase and it's not.
But by this time, of course, you're getting into, not by this time, but very soon afterwards, you're gonna start to get woman saints.
Oh, okay, well, I just was wondering if it
Saint
was
Lucy, patron saint of
Italy and
Sicily.
Sweden. And Sweden.
Sweden, right, yes.
Lucia.
And musicians. No, musicians, that's Saint Cecilia. Saint Cecilia.
That's Saint Cecilia.
So,
And,
but, you know, it's and they were mostly martyrs. And that becomes a,
Sorry.
it's probably.
same thing I got, it's air quality
No,
alert.
sorry.
Anyway, it was so they were, as I said, they were mostly martyrs. But the ones here that are called saints, many of them, well, if they were martyred, it's not mentioned. So but again, it's,
Slowly.
it is, you know, Peter here, if isn't there another Tabitha in the Gospels? Who was a little girl, and this Tabitha's not, but who was a little girl, and Jesus says, you know, he said, get up.
Oh,
mhm.
the centurion's daughter?
Could have been, I thought the centurion was the centurion's son. And Tabitha would not have been a Roman name.
No, this says just, well, no, let's see.
I remember a Fulvia.
No, this is the only one.
Oh, okay. So but what Peter does here is he does what Jesus did. Sends everybody else out of the room. And so, and then revives her. Interestingly, there's the widows are mentioned because they were given clothing by Dorcas, and those were her, and they wore her. The widows came in and wore her the clothing that she had given them. But she would have, those were, because of course if you were a widow, you had no means of support. So that was what her role was to give them something. So right here it says, they brought him to the upper room, and all the widows came up to him and stood weeping, showing the dresses and coats which Dorcas made while she was with them. So presumably she was a seamstress. The Greek says used to make, because she's dead by this time, right? So, and then she gets up, and it was known, and that was another big conversion of people to Christianity. Again, Hebrew name, and so she was maybe a Jewish Christian, and then but now everybody else. But the means, when they talk about laying around, washing her, that was the Jewish burial custom in those days. So they're still using Jewish customs. So, but they called him Peter because he had they said, a couple of disciples said, hey, this is somebody we know. Is there anything you can do? So he did. That was what, again, you almost expect to see, and the church grew bigger and more, added more people, because that's what all of these stories are saying, how entire towns were converted. Yeah,
is it any
small.
different today than what's happening online?
I'm not sure they're being converted to religion religiously.
But I mean, the means by which.
Well, but also you're dealing with a
information
small village here. I don't know how large Joppa was. It's mentioned, it says, in Egyptian records of the 15th century, so it's been around for a long time. And several times in the, it's a suburb of Tel Aviv now.
Enormous.
Maybe now, but I suspect that it was
Not
not then. It was an isolated village then, and then Tel Aviv grew up and encompassed it, exactly
So,
right.
If we were to follow historic tradition here, all we need to do to grow this church is have you raise somebody from the dead.
Yeah,
Are you offering to have her try?
oh dear.
I don't think we have any takers on that part.
Exactly. And on that note, it's a good time to quit. Because we're right at the end of chapter 9. 10 and 11 planned for next time, which will be in 3 weeks' time. We're missing 2 weeks.
Oh, we're
I'm out of
missing 2
town.
weeks.
Yeah, I'm out of town.
Have fun.
Now, it could be that I could bring in a video,
Oh.
and let me stop this.